BC Ferries exemplifies everything that is wrong with transport in North America, and that is because they are so slow. Like, look at this thing. This has a top speed of 25 miles an hour. Are you serious? Let's look at this one. 23 miles an hour? Are you kidding me? Okay, let's look at this one. This one's called the Queen of Cucumbers. 14 miles an hour? Come on! Not to mention that this thing looks hideous. You know, one thing that I've noticed with BC Ferries is that a lot of their ferries are not only slow, but they're also very old. To put into perspective of how old their ferries are, here's the Queen of New Westminster. This thing was built in 1964. You know what was also built in 1964? The Shinkansen Zero series. And the interesting thing about the Shinkansen Zero series is that if you want to see this thing for yourself, you have to go to a museum. But as for the Queen of New Westminster, you don't have to go to a museum to see this thing because it's still in revenue service! Why? This thing is nearly 60 years old. That's long enough for a person to go from being an infant to an old grandpa. Absolutely ridiculous. And they're not even hiding it either. This thing is part of what's called the Century Class. You know why it's called the Century Class? Because it'll take you a century to get to where you want to go on this thing. I mean, these things are so slow that they would lose a race to Stephenson's rocket, which was built in 1829. Take that for what you will. Some of their routes don't even make any sense either. I mean, look at this one. This one runs right next to land. Why run a ferry through here? You could build a railroad right next to it. I mean, we're at a point where most commuter trains are faster than BC Ferries. And somehow, there is a community of people who take an interest in BC Ferries. I don't know what is so interesting about these old relics, but somehow they have their fans. When the Main Queen boat was about to retire, someone even went as far as wearing a Main Queen costume. Like, imagine it's Halloween and you decide to dress up as a stupid boat of all things. And the rest of the people in this photo are pretty good sum up of this community. Old people who don't know anything about modern technology, and young people who don't even know what modern technology is. What a joke. Speaking of the Main Queen itself, this might be the worst one of them all. It has a top speed of a whopping 16 miles an hour, and on top of that, it is quite possibly the stupidest looking thing ever. I mean, this thing looks so ugly that it could give the Fiat Multipla a run for its money. And don't even get me started on the interior. Look at those horrible seats. They didn't even attempt. Let's look at one of their more recent boats. This one is part of the Sailors class, and actually looks pretty cool if you ask me. I like the exterior paint job, and the interior isn't half bad either. The seats are not good color, but at least they're better than this filth. So surely they improved the top speed, right? 17 miles an hour? Oh my god! How slow can you possibly go? Oh, you gotta be